And the first thing I would say is, how much do you need to make personally to cover your bills and expenses in your life? That's like level one, right? So if you're factoring in a mortgage or rent, your groceries, you said you have a family to support, so for kids and everything, like what are all the needs in your life? Generally, for most people, depending on obviously where you live and whatnot, but at least looking at 4 to 10 grand, right? Depending on your situation and where you're living. So that's the first number that I would look at and get really crystal clear on, is how much do I actually need to make sure that I can cover all my personal.
When your leads are low and your sales are slow, who you gonna call? Brushbuster. Scaling up the game. Big projects, friend.
What's up, everyone? Michael Hickman here, founder of paintergrowth.com, and you're listening to a Mike and Jesse episode, your favorite kind of episode of the Painter Growth podcast. And Jesse, stoked as always.
What's up, man? Stoked to be here. I absolutely love doing this. Love chatting with you. Love answering questions from the listeners. But yeah, stoked to dive in today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're in a spot right now at Painter Growth where we are full blast, full speed ahead preparing for our mastermind. For those that don't know, we're holding a mastermind in Orlando, from April 2 to 4. And we have about 100 of you beauties signed up and coming. We have amazing speakers. We have Brandon Vaughn, Tanner Mullen, Jason Paris, and Daniel Honan, along with us and 5 coaches. And it's going to be an incredible experience. Want to tell them about our theme?
Yeah, I'm stoked for it. Our theme for this one is Millionaire's Mindset. And honestly, I've just shout out to our team, like the experience and everything that we've been planning. And in terms of how we've prepped for this event, I think we've prepped for this event probably 100 times more and deeper than any other event that we've done. So the preparation going into it is really going to lead to an experience that I'm confident is going to blow people's freaking minds. So yeah, just beyond excited for it.
Very excited. Very excited. So if we have tickets left, we'll put a link below. I'm not sure if we're going to have any tickets left by the time this airs, but if we do have tickets left, I'll put the link in the description, or help Claudia do that. And so if you see the link there, that means that there's still a ticket or two available. So you definitely want to check that out.
Only come if you really want to have an amazing 2025, though. Otherwise, don't bother.
Yep. No status quo Joes.
That's right.
All righty. You want to solve some problems today?
Let's do it. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'm going to read this one. So this is from our friend Miguel. Well, we don't actually know Miguel. He's from Virginia Beach. And he sent in a letter here. Hey, Brushbusters. Work here has been slow lately, and I really need to grow my business to support my family. I've got about $1,500 to invest. This includes credit cards and savings, so I need to be smart about where I put my money. I'm considering running Facebook ads, but I want to do it right. What targeting options do you recommend when setting up ads for painters? How many different ads should I start with? Should I test multiple variations or just stick to one at first? Any guidance would be a huge help. Miguel. Oh boy.
There's a lot on this one.
There's a lot on this one. You want to start?
Yeah, I can start. So Miguel, first of all, that's awesome that your priorities are clear in terms of wanting to grow your business, support your family, right? I think at the core of this, and I think we can just cut through this pretty quickly on this, where if we go to what's the right problem and then what's the right solution, I just want to make sure that we're focused on the right solution here, right? If the problem is to generate more leads, more sales for my business, then Miguel, it seems like how you've been asking this question is you're automatically assuming that Facebook ads, would be the number one thing to go to. Now, given the constraint that you have of this $1,500 in terms of credit cards and savings as well, I would just say that starting with Facebook ads, given where you're at in your business and whatnot, without having any other context, that just wouldn't be the right solution, right, for this problem that you're experiencing right now. And not to say that Facebook ads don't work or can't work in your business and whatnot. That could be the right solution. But in this case, if we identify the right problem, which is how are you going to generate more leads, more sales, given this constraint around budget and cash flow, then I would say we just eliminate this question overall in terms of the specifics of running Facebook ads, and we actually tackle the core problem here and what's going on. Would you agree, Mike?
Yeah. So, we can talk all day. We could talk all day about Facebook ads and what type of creatives to use and what type of targeting and demographics and all of this stuff. But that's not what you need, Miguel. So I think what goes to my head is like, this would be a great YouTube like thumbnail. It's like, if I had $15 to start over, here's what I would do. It's the marketer in me.
Yeah.
And it would not be Facebook ads. So in this life, in business, you have two sets of finite resources. You have time and you have money. And right now, Miguel, you have a lot of time and you have almost no money, right? $1,500 is like not a lot, right? Especially when you're trying to start a business. So what you need to do, instead of spending that money on something like Facebook ads, which is very transactional, and you're hoping that a lot of things are going to go right, you're hoping that you get product market fit, you're hoping that you get the messaging right, you're hoping that you get the targeting right, you're hoping that people convert and the right people see it so that you can get leads, you're hoping that you close those estimates, right? And you only have a very short runway.
Just on that too, with the Facebook ads, it's like $1,500 isn't even enough to test, to even start to see what's working and whatnot, right? So if we just look at that initial budget, I'm like, dude, you only have enough to test. If you can't test on Facebook and find out which variations are working and hitting, and then double down on the ones that work and cut the other ones, you're already setting yourself up for failure, right?
Yeah, you probably need about $5,000 initially to invest in Facebook to start it working, and you cannot be using Facebook if you're in a desperate position, right? So if this is like, I need this to work, don't use Facebook. So how could we use our time and few financial resources to our advantage, Jesse?
Yeah. So first thing I would look at this is, well, when Miguel here says he has $1,500 with, credit card and savings and whatnot, it's like, dude, you're like redlining right now. And the first thing I would say is, how much do you need to make personally to cover your bills and expenses in your life? That's like level one, right? So if you're factoring in a mortgage or rent, your groceries, you said you have a family to support, so for kids and everything, like, what are all the needs in your life? Generally, for most people, depending on obviously where you live and whatnot, but at least looking at 4 to 10 grand, right? Depending on your situation and where you're living. So that's the first number that I would look at and get really crystal clear on, is how much do I actually need to make to make sure that I can cover all my personal. Then the second of that is looking at the business. And there's overhead costs every month that you have in your business, right? The costs that occur, whether you do $0 in revenue or you do $100,000 in revenue, you have costs that are going to occur. These are softwares or investments into marketing, insurance, vehicles, gas, all these different overhead costs. So what is that number as well? Now, if you're early on in your painting career in your business, you can keep that number, reasonably low as you scale up. But let's say, it's going to be around minimum $3,000 to $6,000 a month, right? So we know that the business has got to break even, and then personally to break even. Those are the critical numbers that you're really problem solving for here. That's the first place that I would start. So let's say that the business needs to make $5,000 to cover its overhead just to be at zero. That means that if you have a gross margin of 50% on your projects, you need to produce $10,000 worth of work so that your business is breaking even. Now you're at zero. That's not paying yourself, right? Then you have the next layer, which is, well, how much does the business need to produce so that I can cover that overhead and I can cover that personal fixed cost, right? And when you do that number in our example here, I don't like to do live math, so I'll pull up my calculator. But if you take your total overhead, business and personal, right? So we'll take 5,000 for the business and we'll say 5,000 personally, right? For the sake of this, I'm not going to factor in tax rates and all that stuff just to keep it simple. But that's $10,000 divided by 50%. If you're hitting 50% margins, means that you need to produce $20,000 in a month to cover your business and to cover your personal. So those are the critical numbers that I'm first going to look at in this situation.
One probable adjustment to make is as this person is probably producing on the tools as well. So we
Right.
factor in his rate as a painter too. So if he's the only painter, probably closer to like 80% margin. If he's got a helper, we can probably estimate it at 65% margin.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we have
exactly.
if we go so that you're saying $10,000 at a 65% gross margin is about 15K in monthly production to make a livable salary and cover overhead.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really, really good point there. So it'll depend on how much, again, you're on the tools and paying yourself. But the key there is, right, if you're to know, and that number, just to touch on that, is if you're on the tools, and we keep saying 50% margin, but if you're factoring your rate into that and you're only hitting 50% margin, then you're way too low, right? If you're the only painter painting, you really, other than painted materials, which should be about 10%, like you should be at 90% if you're the only person painting on that. Like that is your critical number there, right? So it really depends on how you're looking at it. And if you want to be really diligent with job costing, is like you would factor in labor at a market rate of how much you're paying yourself, and then still making sure that the business is gross margining over the 50%.
Yeah. Now, instead of Facebook ads, right? How do we get leads, right? So we need to get leads. We need to convert those leads to estimates, and then we need to turn those estimates into sales, and then we need to turn that sales into production, right?
Perfect. Now, if we use the example of $20,000 that you need to produce just to get to this baseline, and we take an average job size of $6,500, that's about 3 jobs, right? So if we know that we have 3 jobs, and let's assume a close rate that if you go do 10 estimates, you'll book roughly 3 of them, right? So you have 3 jobs divided by 33% close rate means you need to do 9 estimates. And then of 9 estimates, how many leads do you need to generate 9 estimates? And we can roughly say about 15 leads. So the question for Miguel here, to get to level 1 so that your business is covered, and your personal is covered, is you need 15 leads. So how can we use our time and money to generate 15 leads to get to this level 1?
Yep. So 15 leads is it. Now, if you were doing that through Facebook ads, you would need 15 leads for that $1,500. And so you would need to guarantee that you get $100 per lead, and it was a good lead. And even for Facebook, it's actually lower quality, so you probably need like 20 to 22 leads. So that's a big gamble right there. The best thing that you can do in my mind when you have very little money is you need to invest in a neighborhood marketing strategy, and you need to pick one bomb neighborhood where you've produced work before, where you've had high paying customers, where there are nice cars in the driveway, where the lawns are manicured or shoveled or nicely, right, taken care of. And you need to target a very small neighborhood over and over again. Jesse did this really, really well before he exited his painting business. How did you use a neighborhood like domination strategy to your advantage?
Yeah. So the first thing, like you said, is it goes into targeting. One thing that I do, I was actually talking about this on our weekly blueprint call this week, was I asked one of our members, I said, where you're from, who wants me to look at their city on Google Maps right now. And I just pulled out Google Maps, and it happened to be Hamilton, Ontario, which I know nothing about Hamilton, Ontario, except for the fact that they occasionally host the Canadian Open Golf Tournament. So, but the first thing that I did, and I think it was, I remember Jason, and I said, if I was going into start a company in Hamilton today, here's the first thing that I would do. And I said, I would just look for the golf course. Because I know that there's always nice homes around golf courses. And so I found a golf course in Hamilton on Google Maps. And then I zoomed in and I highlighted an area that was around it. And then I clicked Street View, and I used Google Maps to see what the houses looked like, and identified that those houses around there were all above 3,000 square feet. They all had paintable surfaces. They all had nice yards and nice cars in front of it. And so I said to Jason, I said, my first year in business, and I checked 3 different areas around it. And I highlighted this area on Google Maps, which was a tiny area of Hamilton. I said, probably for the first minimum 6 months, maybe even up to a year, I would not market outside of this tiny area in Hamilton, right? So that would be the first thing, is like choosing the right areas to go after. And where we see most people go wrong here, and like why this doesn't work, is because they're just targeting like tiny homes with low income, and with people that don't take pride in their property or care to spend their disposable
Or a
income.
lot of rentals,
right? And so I'm looking for houses that are about 3,000 square feet, paintable surfaces, nice car, nice yard, and all in a confined area. And I'm basically going to put my blinders on and not look outside of those areas. That's like step one. Now, if
The
I have
crazy thing I
1,500,
like about this strategy is the golf course strategy instead of like, there's the other tools where you can use like the USPS, you can use Canada Post, you can use Rich Block, Poor Block. Like there's all sorts of like Census Mapper. There's all these tools that you can use where you can go on and you can find, household income and rent to own ratio and so many metrics, right? Demographics, psychographics, whatever. But I like this golf course strategy because it's so simple. Anyone can do it. There's golf courses in almost every single city. And you just need Street View, search for a golf course near you, and then look at the houses around it, and that's your neighborhood. I love it.
Yeah. So that, and then the other one, golf course and lakes. I always look for golf course and lakes. Right.
Golf courses and lakes.
Yeah.
And then Jason Paris, no, it was Nick Slavic. Because he's in Minnesota, right? Similar as Canada. He looked for the areas with swimming pools. Because in places really that are winter faring, the swimming pools are typically reserved for people who are higher income because you can only use them for 4 or 5 months of the year. Whereas like in Florida or Texas, a lot of people have swimming pools because you can use them all year, right? But when you have a short period to use a swimming pool, it's a very large capital investment. Just go on Google Maps, look where there are a lot of swimming pools, and then target those areas.
So good. I love finding those indicators that you wouldn't necessarily might be correlated, but they actually are in those specific areas or specific markets. So I think if they took one thing from listening to this podcast today and you got this one thing right in your area, it would completely change your life and business. Because it literally dictates everything else that we'll talk about on this call. It'll dictate success or failure from this standpoint here, right? And when I started my company back in 2021, I just decided that I was only going to take on easy projects that were profitable, and I was just going to say no to everything else. There's like this level of focus. I think a lot of people get into a situation where you're just sitting there saying, "Man, I will just take any project, just give me work, right?" And I kind of flipped that script and said, "No, I'm only going to take on these type of projects." And so what I did is I found 15 of these neighborhoods, like within a 15-minute radius of where I lived, and I put boxes right on a Google map, and I said, we market here and we don't market there. Now that if I get a call-in lead from an area outside the box, of course I'm going to vet it and see it, but I'm not going to spend money or time on areas outside of the boxes. That's the difference, right? And so and that's how you can take, in this example of $1,500, and we can get so much out of those $1,500, but it's got to start with this and being so focused, because as you deploy this strategy, and then we'll go into the further, in the lower mainland of Vancouver where I was, there's 1,700 painting companies.
I want to thank the sponsor of today's episode, HireBus. HireBus is founded by badass entrepreneur and friend of the show, Brandon Vaughn. And HireBus will help you hire the top 3% of applicants, whether you're looking for painters, production managers, sales reps, administrators, or whatever role you need to hire. HireBus makes it super easy by handling the entire sales cycle and just sending you the top 3% of candidates. They also have some really crazy behavioral analytical tools where you can go and see exactly the preferences of the people you're hiring. So check out the link in the description. HireBus has a special deal for listeners of the podcast. Let's get back to it.
There's 1,700. And so how do you stand out, right? And this is how you can take what we would consider our red ocean, which is just highly competitive, and everyone kind of has the same offer and the same thing, and you can create your own little, what is called a blue ocean market, and you can just dominate in these little pockets, right? And if we think about this, really practically speaking, if you want to run, $1 million business, for example, is if you can find these houses where the average job size goes up, even if it's just exterior, right? And you know that the average job size is closer to 10K. And you know that 25 homes, if you paint 25 homes, that's 250 grand. So how do you find 4 of these pockets where you could go extract that work from? That's it. That's how you can build $1 million company right there.
Yep, it's pretty simple. And there's so many other benefits too. Like you don't need to, if you can get most of your jobs out of one small pocket, you're not having these long commutes in between jobs or estimates. Everything's in one place. Your painters are all working together. You can see your sites more. You can see your clients more. You're not spending so much time behind the wheel. you're going to be happier. It's just
Yeah.
better overall.
100%. And especially as you scale your team too, it's like, could you imagine, if you have two jobs on the go and they're 30 or 40 minutes apart because of the city and whatnot, and then eventually you hire a production manager, and let's say you're paying your production manager $100,000 for the year, and you know that they spend 20 hours of the week just driving, so you're paying 50 grand a year for somebody to drive. Didn't that thought piss you off? Because it pisses me off. Because, like, what would I have them do instead of driving for 20 hours? Like, what would I have them do?
Yep. So much.
I mean, virtually anything, anything other than that would add value to the business, right? All right, so we go to the next step. So we have this.
Yeah. So we pick a neighborhood. Pick a neighborhood, and like in order to use that $1,500 effectively, there's like a really clear 3-layered strategy to extract the most possible work.
Yeah.
Right. And it sounds simple, but it's simple and it works. And it's crazy because most people don't do it at all with this 3-layer strategy. And the ones who do have a ton of success with it. So we're going to spell it out. It's incredibly simple. And if you do it, you will be successful. Right. Number 1, strategically place lawn signs, bright colors.
Exactly. So start with that. And what I'd say is, in this constraint, in this example, lawn signs will be about $20. I'm going to order 10. So I'm going to spend $200 of that 1,500, and I'm going to get 10 signs because it's a very
Nice and
confined
big.
area. Nice and big. And then I'm going to strategically place them at the entrances and the exits. Now, the ninja move here is, if you place a sign in the lawn, in public property and whatnot, it maybe has a lifespan of 7 to 20 days, right? Before, something happens with it. The ninja move here, if you want to get the most out of this, is, and again, checking your bylaws and everything, what's around. But I always say, ask for forgiveness versus permission. But you could staple those lawn signs to telephone poles like higher up, and you're going to get way more lifespan out of those signs. But to put them at the entrances and the exits of the area, that's going to start to generate this awareness of your company brand and name in this little small pocket. That would be step 1.
Yeah. So take your 10 lawn signs and put them up in strategic entries and exits on the boulevards and neighborhoods, and even ask if there's like a really prominent house on a corner. Just go ask them, like, hey, could I give you a $20 gift card to have this on your lawn for a couple of days? Chances are they'll say yes, because you're just helping a small business, right? So that's number 1. That's step 1. You want to go into step 2?
Yeah, and I would even go further. I would say, can I leave this here for like a month? Right, like, go for a big ask. It's like, it would really help us out. We're a small business. I live here, right? Just get connected. And when you do that ask, oh, by the way, you guys think I'm getting painted in?
Yep.
Right. Okay. So then the next step is, I would spend money, and I would get a door hanger or a flyer made up. And so let's say that printing costs on that is like 25 cents per piece. Is I'm going to get initially 1,000 flyers, which is going to be about 250. What is that? $25. Spend $25 on getting 1,000 pieces delivered to that area. And we know that a good piece of direct mail will convert at about 1%. Okay. So, and because you have more time than money, you just drop them off yourself. You spend, it'll be about 10 hours of your time, and you're just going to drop it off. And then the next following day is, you're going to start canvassing that area and just going to ask people if they're thinking of getting any painting done. Right. And if you get a 1% conversion on those 1,000 mail pieces, you will get 10 estimates right there. Now, if we go back to our initial constraint in getting to this level 1, we said we needed 15 leads and 9 estimates. Well, if we hit 1% conversion into an estimate just on the 1,000 mail pieces, we're already at 10. Then layering it on, you spend from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Right? And you can just go and introduce yourself as the owner of the company, because that's a way, higher leverage piece. And you say, yeah, I live here, I have my family here, and you get that connection. Oh, by the way, you guys thinking of getting painting done, right? And you just make it more of an introduction than anything else. And you should expect to get about 1 lead per hour from that. So if you do that in the first week, you delivered 1,000 flyers with the signs around for the brand awareness, and you did 10 hours, right? You did about 4:30 to 7:30, roughly. Well, then you should, that's about 10 leads from that. Yeah, you're looking at like 17 estimates from those 2 strategies. And now 17 estimates, if you book a third of them, is roughly six jobs times by 6,500. You're already looking at like 40K of work right there in the first week. Now, the rocket fuel on this is when you do land one job, is to do something what we call job site marketing, which when I left my business, I was looking at the data, and it was 72% of all of our new work came from job site marketing. Because our mindset is every time we booked one job, we weren't thinking about just that one job. We were thinking about the 2 or 3 jobs that are right around it that are ready to book. And we take that one job and turn it into 2 or 3. And then what do we do for those 2 to 3? We just repeat the same process. And so you do the same thing. So what is job site marketing? Well, we want to order a few more signs. We're going to spend a little bit more money on signs, right? So that we have 2 signs strategically placed on every lot. I was walking, before I left Vancouver and moved down to Mexico, I was out walking with my wife, and there was 2 huge houses getting painted back to back. And we were out for a walk with my son in the evening. I spent 15 minutes kind of walking around to see what painting company it was, and I couldn't find it. Right. And they looked great. The work looked right. The houses looked great. They were doing a great job in the process and everything. I had no idea. And so if you're a neighbor walking around, you're like, I have no idea. Right. So it's super simple. Just have your signs there. Then I would always get my painters to deliver what we call a wet paint flyer. It says, hey, we're painting at this house right now. Come check out our work. And you just write in the address, and we drop off 50 to 100 of these a day. This is people don't realize how much volume you need to do in terms of marketing to get it out. That's one of the biggest gaps that I see as well. People say, oh, it doesn't work. You need to do way, way more. Wow, I put out 50 pieces of direct mail. Yeah, go put out 5,000 and then come back, right?
Yeah. So I want to back up just a little bit here on some of the strategies to make it a bit more actionable. So when you're getting a door hanger, a lot of people get hung up on how to design a door hanger. What do you put on it? They sit on Canva for hours and try to put something together. Just pay $40, get someone on Fiverr, Fiverr.com to design a door hanger for you. You're going to send them your logo, your colors, and they're going to design a beautiful door hanger. Then you can upload to Vistaprint. I pulled up Vistaprint here. You can actually order 2,000 door hangers, the big size, for $242 with free shipping. So you combine that. So you get the $40 for design, let's say $240 for the door hangers, and $200 for signs. So we're at $460 right now, plus about 10 hours, let's say 20 hours of your time. Your time is not worth anything because you're not doing anything else right now, right? So let's round up to $500. And out of that $500 in this example, you have now generated 17 estimates, and you closed 33% of them. So you closed 6 jobs at $6,500. Let's even say $5,000, smaller jobs. So you booked $30,000 for a $500 estimate, $500 and how many hours of your time?
About 20 hours of your time.
20 hours of your time. So with that, not including your time, you just got a 60x return on your investment by following this simple 3-step strategy and doing something that's a little bit uncomfortable. But you know what? I'd rather be uncomfortable and have my belly full than be comfortable and hungry.
Yeah. At the core of that is are you willing? And this sounds super simple when we call it out like this, it sounds super simple. But the reason why this works is that 99.9% of people are just not willing to do it. So are you willing to get uncomfortable and do what others are not willing to do? So tomorrow you can live like others can. Right? We were talking about this. I was saying two years ago, I think it was 2 years ago when I was training my team, it was pouring rain out. I was running a cold calling team, and it was just miserable out. And I was out there in the trenches with them and whatnot, and just doing the step-by-step. You know the story of the guys that raced to the South Pole?
Don't know that story, actually. Enlighten me.
Okay, so there's I can't recall the guys. There's Asmunsen and another guy. And the one guy's strategy was, hey, when it's nice out, we're going to trek as far as we can on the nice days, and then on the days that it's not nice out, we're just going to camp and stay inside, right? And the other guy's strategy said, hey, we're going to march 20 kilometers a day no matter what, right? No matter what the weather is, no matter what it is. And so the guys that marched 20 kilometers every day, no matter what the conditions were in Antarctica and whatnot, they cruised and they got to the South Pole first. The other guys their whole camp died on the way, because on the days that it was really terrible and they didn't move at all and they just stayed inside and whatnot, they actually froze to death. And so how do you do this 20-mile march, right? Like, no matter what the conditions are, no matter what it is, it's like you get up and you do this activity that others are not willing to do, and you do it every single day. And ultimately you will get to places that other people cannot get to.
Why do you think people like psychologically are afraid of, I don't know, like afraid of going door to door, but like afraid of doing something that, out of their comfort zone that might lead to success?
I mean, I'll address the door-to-door one. I think that a lot of people just have an innate, fear of rejection, right? That probably stems from, their childhood or being in middle school and, walking up to the girl or the boy and getting rejected. And that's just like a core wound and whatnot. And in terms of why it's like so uncomfortable, I would say even myself, I haven't gone door to door for a while now. If I were to like, put on my jacket and go door to door today, dude, I have knocked on 15,000 doors or more myself in my lifetime. I have trained, hundreds of people how to do this and whatnot. If I were to today, right now, not having done this for probably about 18 to 24 months now, I would be really nervous. I know I would get out there and I wouldn't want to do it. I would park my truck and everything would be fighting myself to not go knock on that first door. Right. And I've done this over and over and over again. I've put hundreds and hundreds of hours into this activity, probably thousands of hours at this point. And having not done it for a while, if I were to go do it again, all those same fears and everything would be right there. And the hardest door is that first door. But once you get to that first door, you talk to the customer and all those stories that you made up of how you thought it was going to go, they're going to slam the door in your face, they're going to do this. It's not true. And then you get to the next door and then you start to get momentum going. And then it actually becomes a pretty enjoyable activity. But most people do not knock on the first door. And so if you're listening to this today and you've never done this, you never tried this today, I would just encourage you to knock on the first door today. Just do that one door and then see what happens. Because once you do that one, you realize it's not that bad. It's actually kind of fun. You get to meet the neighbors, and then you get moving from there. That's my thoughts. You have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. The first door is definitely the hardest, but the mindset going in needs to expect no, right? Because if you expect no, then you're not going to be disappointed when you get a no. Right? You're going to be excited when you get a yes, which you should be, right? But you're not going to be disappointed. And that's, I think, the really important thing. It's like, because if you go and you get a no and you're like, you get another no, and you keep getting like dejected and you feel it personally, you take it personally as you get these no's, then yeah, you're going to have a terrible experience and you're not going to want to do it again. But if you just go in with like a positive mindset, a no is the most likely scenario, but you're going and you're going to go provide value and you're going to be friendly and you're going to represent your company well and you're going to introduce yourself and just be a friendly neighborhood figure, introducing yourself to your neighbors. It's going to be a much better experience than if you're trying to be salesy and slimy and overcome objections and all of that.
Yeah, and we found out too. I had my team start to count their no's, and we actually had this down to a science that every 11 no's we would get a lead. But the encouragement, what I encourage the team is see how many no's you can get at a single door, right? So, and I think the best story of this was I had this guy Zach, and he got 6 no's at a door, and he got the lead. That was the record. There were 6 no's at a door, and he still walked away with the lead. So that's something I always encourage our team to do is count the no's, because when you go there, and again, getting over that hump of the first door, if you know that you need to get 11 no's to get a lead, you kind of just like, hey, I need to rack up these no's faster. And then you just get out of your head and get to it. That was one of the biggest shifts that changed our entire team in terms of the results as we started counting the no's. And literally to a T, 11 no's would result in 1 lead. So are you willing to go get 11 no's to get a lead? Right? And you're in an area with like massive homes and whatnot, and you know that these jobs are all 10 to 20K. Are you willing to go get 11 no's to have the opportunity to go bid on one of these jobs that could net you $10,000 in your bank account? Right. Yep. Every no is $1,000 potentially. Right.
Yeah. No kidding. I mean, if you look at that, so $5,000 a job, let's say 5 leads to a job, that's $1,000 per lead. So 11 no's is $1,000. You divide that by 11, that's $90 a no. You gonna go knock on a door for a no for $90?
That's such a different mindset shift, right? Like every no is worth $90 to me.
Yeah.
That's
Like
pretty
boom,
good.
no, $90 in my pocket. Awesome. I think the
Yeah.
last important thing is just like that we should just address really quickly is just give the guys listening and Miguel an actionable script and what to say at the door, just to overcome that, just so they can take it from today and use it this afternoon. So how would you
Yeah.
recommend starting that?
Yeah. I would say, hey, my name is Jesse. I'm with Paint and Growth Painting. Have you heard of us before? And they're going to say no. And then I would say, we're a local company. We're doing a ton of work in this area right now, or we're going to be doing a ton of work in this area, depending on like where you're at. And I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm the owner of the company. I actually live down there with my wife and my baby. Just want to pop by and see if you guys were thinking of getting any painting done. And then they would say no. And then I would say, how about anything on the inside? And they would say no. And I'd say, how about any decks? No. Any fences? Oh, maybe. Oh, yeah. What were you thinking about? Fence? Perfect. We're actually doing free estimates. What's your first name? And I'm going to look straight down. And as soon as they give that tiny window of an opportunity, and this is the difference between, maybe getting 0 to 1 leads an hour or to 3 to 5. As soon as they give you any inkling of an opening and they say, oh, like maybe, or like we're thinking about it, you right away, what were you thinking about? You get them to call it out a little bit further. And then you say, perfect, we're doing free estimates right now. And you look straight down on your piece of paper and say, what was your first name? And you do not look up and you stay looking down, say your last name, great, phone number, fantastic, your email, and okay, the address is here, fantastic, I have all that information now. Now I'm going to go to the next step and say, I'm actually going to be in the area on Friday or Saturday. Are you around Friday or Saturday? And they're going to say, yeah, I'm around Saturday. Great, I have 10 or 11. Which one do you want? 11 works. Great. I'm going to schedule in there. What I'll do is tomorrow I'm going to give you a call, just get a little bit more clarity on the job details and whatnot, but I'll see you Saturday at 11. So that's a script. That script right there will get you, as you practice it and deploy it, you'll be able to get 3 to 5 leads an hour if you practice that script right there.
Yeah.
So
just go back and listen to that again. It's worth worth your price of admission.
There's a couple key points there. I'll just call it out and reverse engineer it. So when I say my name in the company, right, it's all in the tonality, and you have 4 seconds to capture their information. And so you got to be enthusiastic as hell, right? You got to be the figure of authority. And you got to be sharp as a tack. So sharp as a tack is you know exactly what you're saying. You know where you're going in the conversation. And figure of authority is, hey, you're a homeowner. I'm a painter. I see you have a problem. I'm here to help you solve your problem. But it all comes across in your tonality. Then you flip the question, or you ask them a question. You say, have you heard of us before? We say that to get them engaged. They're likely going to say no. So I'm already prepared for them to say no. From there, I say, we're a local painting company, and I use the word local, right? Because now I'm connecting with the neighbor. We're a local painting company, and we're going to be doing a ton of work in the area, right? I'm just confident that I know that we're going to book a ton of work in this area, so I'm going to call that out. And now I've normalized it that a lot of people are going to get their house painted. Okay, so now that's changing in their brain in terms of how they're thinking about it. And then I say, then I introduce myself if I'm doing this myself, because I'm the owner of the company, and that has way more merit, right? People like talk to the small business owners and whatnot. Like, regardless of what you think, like, people want to support, local business owners and whatnot. And I'll just make relation. Yeah, I live, down the street or in this area. Like, I'm literally one of your neighbors, and I'm a business owner, and I'm out here hustling. Like, that's what you're saying without saying that. And I live here, with my baby, whatever. Like, you have family, connection, relation. Then using the word specifically, thinking. This is the biggest mistake I see people make, is they say, are you interested in getting any painting done? No, I'm not interested. I'm eating dinner. I'm watching the hockey game. I'm watching the football game. But if I say, are you thinking of getting any painting done? Then they say, oh. It switches. Like, initially, they're probably going to say no, right? But now they're like, am I thinking about getting painting done? Well, maybe. And then as soon as we're just looking for like a maybe or a little bit of an inkling, right? And then if they say no, then I ask another question, because now they're starting to think about it. And then if they say, as soon as they say, oh, we're maybe thinking about it, I say, great, what were you thinking about? So I flip the question again. I get them to call it out a little bit more specifically. And as soon as they say that, I go for the close, and I look straight down and I say, great, we're doing free estimates right now. What's your first name? As soon as you get that tiny bit of an opening, that's where you go for the close. Most people talk themselves out of getting leads because they don't close fast enough. As soon as you get that tiny sliver of a window of an opening, great. What's your first name, last name? You capture all their information. Then at that point, you can do the ninja move, which is, to actually book the estimate at the door. But it's only after you've captured that lead information. Step 1, capture all the lead information. Step 2, then book that estimate. And the reason why we try to book the estimate at the door is because even an estimate that's scheduled is easier to reschedule, and your lead slippage rate will drop by about 50% if you book those leads at the door.
Yep, 100%. I mean, not everyone's going to want to book, but do your best to, number one, get that lead as soon as they give that inkling, stare down at your page and just ask them for their name and their phone number and their email address. And once you get it, you can make eye contact again.
Yeah, then you look up, and then you you make the eye contact again, and you're obviously a good person.
Yeah.
Good build a good character. Okay, just to recap that with Miguel. So we've spent what, $500. We problem solved, within a week's time, how to book 30, 40K of work. You did that consistently for a month. You could literally go book 6 figures in a month doing the strategy with less than $1,500.
Let me add one more thing. Getting a door hanger designed, getting a lawn sign designed, ordering door hangers, ordering lawn signs, waiting for them to get delivered, all takes time. That might take 10 to 14 to 21 days, depending on how fast the designer is, how fast shipping is, etc. Don't wait for 21 days to get started. Imperfect action is better than perfect action, right? Because what you can do is you can spend an hour or two, get it designed, send it to the designer and order it. And then this evening, you can go and start step 3. Go find that neighborhood and go knock 100 doors a night or 200 doors a night, even without the door hanger, even without the lawn sign. The pickup rate isn't going to be the same. You're not going to get quite the same response, but you're still going to get a response, and you need money now. And this is going to be completely free to do, and highly recommend that you do that immediately without waiting until everything is perfect and the stars align for you to get started.
Yeah, you can make up for that lack of, not the full strategy there with your skill of everything that we just talked about in terms of like the script and going there and going hunting. And that is so much better than sitting around and saying, well, when are these leads finally going to come in? Right? No, like switch your mindset, like get off your ass and go do it.
Yep. And you have the power, right? You don't have to be slow. The business doesn't have to suck. You can have business. It's going to be you for a little bit, but once you get a bit of momentum, a bit of money, you can hire someone to do this for you. And then you have an automated lead flow machine that's bringing in jobs every single day. Dress in bright colors. Don't wear black, right? If you have something with your logo on it, wear it. If you don't, that's fine. Grab a clipboard at Walmart for $2.99. Get out there.
Yeah, one of our members, Nick, he was talking about on the call this week. He's been in Blueprint for about 60 days now, and like building up his machine where like he's been hiring and training and whatnot. He went literally from getting about 2 to 3 leads a week to last week. One of his guys generated 24 leads in 16 hours of cold calling. And he's now at the point of, and I had to talk to him. I said, hey, once you have this marketing machine going, like you keep hammering and you keep going, the next problem, he's like, well, I don't have time to do all these estimates. Like, great. That's the next problem we got to solve. We got to increase your estimate capacity, which is a new problem to solve. And once you get over this problem of not enough leads, like, man, business is just so much more fun. And like, to be honest, if you don't have leads, you don't really have a business. So you got to do whatever possible to solve this one problem first. So again, right problem is, we know we need leads. Right solution, we just gave you the solution that is what we call like the core 4 strategy. And if you deploy this, you will not have a lead problem. And then we're going to have to solve other problems, which is increasing estimate capacity, increasing hiring more people. And those are, in my opinion, just so much more fun problems to solve. I think the worst problem as a business owner is when you don't have leads. Like that sucks. That sucks for everybody. So knowing that, do everything in your power to solve this one problem, because it'll trump so many of the other problems that you think you have, right? You think you have a cash problem? No, you have a lead problem, right? Go solve that lead problem, because you get the leads, you get the sales, the cash will go away. Cash flow will go away.
Love it, man. We just saved Miguel's life.
Not all heroes wear capes, man.
Awesome, man. Well, that was a lot of fun. I'm sorry we didn't get to more letters, but that was letter number 80 from the Brushbusters. So
that was fun. Hopefully that was helpful, Miguel. Sending you lots of love, brother, and go out there, get after it, and make it happen.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, man.